Cuento Crimen podcast. We are a true crime podcast, and these are cases that don't get much media attention, so chances are you haven't heard of some of these cases. Come join us every Wednesday for a new true crime case. Hey everyone!
Hola todos!
This is Jahaira.
And this is Stephanie, and welcome back to Cuento Crimen podcast on YouTube.
I love it. No, just kidding. We hope you're all having a wonderful day, and thank you all so much for tuning back in. It definitely means a lot to us, especially because I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of nervous about this one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining, and we hope that you guys are enjoying this little segment of how I almost got kidnapped. So today, as usual, we have 2 more stories for y'all. And these were submitted to us. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into it and get started. So the first one that we have, we're going to title it Apartment. And this is how it goes. Okay, so we live in an apartment complex, my boyfriend and I, plus our 2 kids. We live on the 2nd floor, and we sometimes come for a walk and for the kids to run and stretch. I feel that. And sometimes my kids go down alone. My oldest is 10 and my youngest is 4. They do this often, and we never had issues with this. And I grew up this way where kids can run and play, but this changes after this incident. I do feel like back then it was a lot more common for like the neighborhood kids to come all together.
Yeah, and just like run around.
Which is kind of sad. So one day my kids returned inside after being outside for about 10 minutes. And my 10-year-old looked spooked. I calmed him down and told him what happened. He said that he and his 4-year-old sister were playing hide and seek, and that he couldn't find his sister until he reached a little pathway, and there he saw a white man walking away with his sister. And he said he yelled out, "My mom is right here, let her go." And he did. He kept walking, and my sister ran back. My 4-year-old tells us that she was hiding behind a tree and that the man approached her and told her, "Your mom is looking for you. Come with me." She was also spooked, but because she was, younger, it was easier to comfort her. Whereas my 10-year-old was really shaken up and he could not relax. This taught me a big lesson. It doesn't matter what era you're growing up in. Anything can happen in a split second. Now, even if I have dishes to wash or other chores around the house, I will go out with my children because I get to enjoy them and take a break myself too.
Yeah, as you were saying, I do agree. I feel like times have changed, or maybe, it's always been like that. And a lot of us have, grew up lucky growing up, running around and like the parents being indoors, because that's the way I grew up. But now I can't imagine letting my nieces do that.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to be outside with them.
I feel like also I wonder what role technology played or plays in this. You know what I mean? Like, was it happening back in the day, right? Like when we have this vision of like kids playing outside, like was it still happening, but we just wouldn't hear about it because it's like people weren't aware of the dangers, and like there isn't like social media for like quick little story recaps or like sharing like, oh, this person got kidnapped or you know what I mean? And then like now we have technology, so it's like now we hear about it more often.
Yes. And maybe also like not all true crime cases made it on the news.
Yeah.
And it's now like true crime podcast is a source of like getting these stories out. So maybe it was happening a lot more or the same rate, but it wasn't shared.
You know what it makes me think about too? It's like the milk cartons, right? Like back in the days, like the missing children, like their pictures were on milk cartons.
Yeah.
So it's like, was that their way? But like that just wasn't as effective as like watching a TikTok video of someone who got kidnapped,
Yeah. But yeah, it's a big lesson, I feel like. And I like the fact that she is saying that, she's going to go outside and enjoy it and take it as a break for herself too.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like as a mom, that was like, or like as a new time mom, pues, that was like my biggest mistake. Like I was trying to focus so hard on the chores. And it's like, no, like, you know what? Now I've learned that it's like, yeah, sometimes I need the break too. And like, he's only going to be a toddler once in my life, so it's like the dishes can wait, anything can wait, but your child cannot.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, time is a thief, but then also situations like this, like I think that would be my biggest my biggest fear.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that her brother was able to see it at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And he was smart. He was actually smart by saying, like, my mom's right there.
Yeah. Like, he was ready for that. Like, he knew what to say to scare the guy away.
Yeah. Definitely need to have a talk with my son when he's a little older.
He's a little
teach
older.
him what to say and when to say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Okay, moving on to the next story. This one is titled Walking Home. And this is another submission, so thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and read it off my laptop. And it goes like this. My brother and I walked home every day after school. And this was like a 10-minute walk, I would say. Sometimes we would hang out at the playground for a little after school. If we had to ask for permission the night before. That day after school, we had permission to stay for about 30 minutes, but we didn't have a phone or a watch. So I kind of had to guess, that it was 30 minutes to start heading home. And I would look at the school traffic, and if it started to die down, that meant that I should start heading back home with my brother. So that day we started walking home, and I forgot to mention that the school is right next to a park, and that is where we played after school. So we started walking out of the park, walked to the end of it, and then walked to the end of the school, and we reached the teacher's parking lot. But before we could reach the houses, some man jumped out of the parking lot and grabbed me, and he shook me. He physically shook me. And he is yelling, saying, "You guys are coming with me." I felt like my body did fight or flight. I fought my way out of his hand and ran with my brother. This had to be the scariest moment of my childhood. And after that, I never stayed extra after school. After that, we would just go straight home because there was a lot of traffic and other kids and parents walking home as well. And that's the story of how I almost got kidnapped, or I should say, how I and my brother almost got kidnapped.
That one shook me. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Imagine you're peacefully it seemed like it was kind of a routine, playing, a little extra few minutes after school. And then all of a sudden you're walking and then just being physically grabbed onto and then shaken. I feel like when you read that, I was oh God. Yeah, that's scary.
And it's walking home. I'm sure all of us have done that at some point. Walking home is, and especially a 10-minute walk, it's not that long, and there's other people there, but it's scary.
It is scary. And it's also just it kind of bothers me, the fact that this is a school zone and there's someone this creep just
in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Which just waiting.
Creeps, the targets, but it's just it's it's kind of gross, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of just glad that he fought, and so did his brother, and that they were able to get away.
Yeah.
I feel like that one escalated very quickly.
It did. It did. And to me, it's such a normal task to walk home. There's so many kids that walk home.
Yeah.
And there's so many kids that stay after school to play for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's a highlight, to be able to play after school. And 10 years old, I feel like it's a good age to walk home. I feel like schools allow third graders to start walking home, right?
Self-checkout. But they're able to leave by themselves. Yeah. Well, it's my partner, right? He grew up in a very nice area, and he always says we were able to walk home, and we would go here after school, go buy a little Caesar's pizza after school. And I look at him because I did not have that experience, but I feel like our experience wasn't so much of being kidnapped. It was just violence was around in the town that we lived. So it was mostly no, you can't walk home from school because what if something happens? But it wasn't so much as kidnapping. You know what I mean? It was more what if si te asaltan, or something. So it's just interesting to see the difference. They obviously felt very safe, but it still happened.
Sometimes I feel kidnapping stories happen in nice areas,
the suburban areas.
Yeah, that's my theory.
Which makes sense, because it's there's more kids out. I feel like there's less.
You're less alert, maybe. Versus you're saying that you had to be more alert, or you couldn't walk home because of what was already known.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes he'll ask me too. He's because now we live in the city that he grew up. And so he'll be like, oh, are you gonna like let our son come to school here? And I was like, yeah, like, sure, why not? And then he's like, oh, yeah, like, so he can come, like, walking home from school when he's a 5th grader. I'm like, no. I was like, I will be taking him to school. And maybe when he, you know, is an 8th grader, we can talk about him walking.
Yeah.
Because it's scary to think about.
It's scary to think about that. I agree with you. I don't know if I could ever let my future children walk home.
It's scary.
Es que, como, like, as we say on the podcast, uno nunca sabe.
You really don't. So, like, who can you meet down the block, you know? Like, there's creeps everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What do y'all think? Like, or do you let, like, if you have kids, do you let them walk to school? How do you go about it? Like, I for sure want my kid to share locations with me.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But it's just like, I feel like if he's even like 5 minutes late, I'll probably start freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know what y'all do. Parents who have kids who are walking home. How do you not think about these things?
Yeah,
you know?
I'm like, is it because I'm a true crime mom?
Honestly, pros and cons.
Right? I don't know. Am I? Or is it like, do all mothers think this way?
Yeah, let us know what y'all think in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this segment video. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.